Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the podcast. I'm Brendan. I'm here with John, and today we are going to talk about trauma. Dun, dun, dun. So, John was experiencing some stuff, and we were digging into it, and then he's like, hey, why don't we talk about this on the podcast? Because I also have some experience with what people call, I assume, trauma. But we're going to deep dive on that. So let's go. What were you about to say?
Yeah, well, what I just experienced, or what I experience on occasion, um, and actually, it's very frequent now, and I really need to get it resolved. Is I have serious burning and itching sensations that move across my body, my skin,
Hmm.
in like waves, and it's debilitating at times. Like it literally stops me from being able to move quickly or do things.
Yeah.
And it's definitely connected to my emotional state. It does not show physical signs on my skin, or very rarely and only briefly. Like every once in a while, if they're really bad, I'll get like a place on my skin where it gets like red, and I think it's just because the blood is coming to the surface.
Yeah.
But I think physically what's happening is like my capillaries on my skin or something are just like dilating or constricting or something. But the
Yeah.
sensation is really intense. Sensations.
Yeah.
And it can be connected to changes in temperature. That does happen, like hot or cold will trigger it. Um, but also anything that I get really, really emotional about, positive or negative,
Hmm.
but more negative than positive, but even intense positive emotions. Like if like have you ever laughed so hard that it hurts?
Yeah.
Well, if I laugh so hard it hurts, it really hurts. Like I cannot let
Like,
myself get that worked up. I
huh.
have to keep it down.
Nervous system is
Yeah,
fired up. Yeah.
yeah, and Um, and then any even the tiniest little anxiety can trigger it when it's bad. Like if and it could be something stupid, like I'm struggling with a zipper on my backpack, and I just have the thought, like I don't know if I can open this, and just that will cause like a like a flare up
Hmm.
through my body, and yeah, it's intense, and I have no diagnosis connected to it. But I think it's yeah, dude, I think it's related to trauma. I think it's related to trauma, and my nervous system just, or my system got too much for too long, overloaded and shut down, or it went it just snapped.
Yeah. Yeah. And then you were asking me, yeah, just before we hit the record button, like, how do I resolve that? Or like, you went through some stuff because I also mentioned, I mean, I'm reiterating, we just talked about this, but I went through a period where I was not feeling good in my body. And then somebody told me that was anxiety, and I was like, the fuck is this shit? Like, what? You mean this shitty, horrible feeling in my body was like crawling down my arms, and like feelings of I'm gonna die, and extreme, extreme discomfort, emotional discomfort.
Was yours was emotional?
Well, it
The
it was
feeling was
literally
emotional?
it was like literally like in my body, these feelings, like there was a radiating feelings down my arms that were extremely uncomfortable, almost
Mm.
excruciating, and then coupled that with massive amounts of fear, and then even like very paranoid, very scared, and then feelings of like I am in a lot of pain, I don't want it to continue, ergo like let's end it, kind of thing. All kinds of
Oh.
stuff. But you saw me when I was in some
Yeah,
of
I
it,
did.
and then
Yeah.
I was asking you about it, like, well, did I look different? And you're like, no, you didn't look different. or was I acting funny?
You would
'Cause-
tell me about it, and I don't think you had any major outbursts. I think once we were driving and you said that you were experiencing it at the moment.
yeah,
But I think it was mostly like around that time you were experiencing it a lot.
yeah,
And also I've seen you so many times um where you have upset and yet there's like this core clarity where
yeah.
you observe your like hellscape whatever is going on with you from a place of like, yeah, this is super fucked up, I'm going through something, and it's just that, like, it helps where you come from.
Yeah, I blame the Enlightenment for that.
Yeah, fucking
As Peter would
enlightenment.
say, have some nothing from which to come, or have something that doesn't come or go, that can't ever be affected. And
Mhm.
it's me, and yet my mind can go fucking ape shit. I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, there my mind goes crazy right now. This is not good. Yeah,
So it sounds to me like we might be experiencing related things, but they or not, but they seem to be manifesting differently.
yeah,
And what, how did you, because do you experience those same things now?
no.
What's changed?
I think I found, yeah. So I guess like the question on the table here is like, well, how did you get over it? Or how does one confront this trauma if it indeed is trauma? It seems like it is, quote, trauma, but then coming from, good question. I'm glad you asked. Thanks, John. I think maybe there's a multi-pronged approach. So I'm just going to start somewhere and then see where it goes. Is first of all, coming from the Chengchen perspective or the ontological perspective or the consciousness perspective, like considering what these things are, we can strip away language right away to get more at the truth of the matter. So when we say trauma, first of all, what the fuck are we talking about? You know, there is this people, if you look into trauma, I've done some research. Um, there's this doctor, actually, that doctor, Gabor Mate,
Hmm.
Gabor Mate,
Yeah,
who
yeah,
we
I've
saw in
listened
some
to
of his,
him. Yeah.
check some of his videos about trauma because he's mentioned something. Okay, backing up, basically, like when I started to discover my mind, I needed some work on my mind because I discovered some stuff in my experience. I was like, holy shit, this hurts. I said I better start looking into the matter because I've got workshops coming up and my mind ain't right, and I need to get it right so I can keep going. So I started looking into it. And one of the things this guy said was it's not what happens, because what happened can vary. Like a bee could sting one kid and the kid is traumatized for life about bees. A bee could sting another kid and they have no problems. It's just like, okay, it's not an issue. So it's
Mm,
not so much what happens, but how that person relates to what happens.
mm,
And so that first of all is like, oh, okay, wait a minute. Then the trauma is is not what occurs; it's how I relate to what occurs. And then then that sets me down a road. Well, how am I relating to things? For first of all, and that's one area. So I'll put that aside for now. Another thing that I heard in my journey of get this bullshit out of my body is I heard that polar bears will, if they're traumatized, they will literally shake their bodies and get rid of it.
mm, mm,
So I did shit like that. I would like lie down on the floor. I'd come in here, I'd scream and yell and just shake and just let my body do what it did, like just to see. I did a bunch of that. And then I also, you know, these are healing methods that I intuited based on like what do I need to do to get my shit right? Yell and
mm,
scream, shake on the ground, do like a polar bear. I was like, fuck it, go animal. Um, exercise. I'm like, I need physical labor, stat. Like, give me something to do, give me some work to do. Let's do some work outside. Fucking handle my shit. I was exercising, did some of that. Luckily, we have a pool here, did some swimming. So, like those things. And then I also started to confront my mind and really going deep into myself. Am I what am I up to? how am I relating to the world? And I started to uncover, or I was going off the premise, my body is relating to, it's not relating to anything physical, because physical objects just sit there. Like, I was like, but my body's relating to something, like my nervous system is relating to something, but I can't see what that something is. And that something is mental. It's not a physical something, because the couch just sits there. The computer just sits there. When I had this huge rush and feeling of like, I'm going to die, what people call a panic attack, you see, they call it a panic attack, but what is the experience actually? It's like, I thought I was going to die. And I came out of my place where I was living. I was walking through the woods. It was nighttime, and I looked at the objects, and I could see that the objects weren't a threat. The objects do not care. There's no fear in objects. So where's all this fear coming from? And I'm like, wait a minute, my mind is the issue. It has to be the issue. And I started to get that there's like a third thing. What I mean by that is there's the objects, there's what I experience, and then there's what's causing the experience. And the cause was not the objects, and the cause of my experience was not my experience. There's something missing, like something I'm not aware of. And I started to deep dive into what am I relating to right now, because my nervous system doesn't do anything I don't tell it to do, kind of thing. Now, it just so happens that the telling of which may be unconscious. And so I used my contemplation skills, and I started to dig into my experience deeply to get at what the fuck am I freaking out about? See? So, yeah. So let's see. So backing up, trauma in this perspective, getting at trauma, again, this is me making some shit up here, you know, but it's based on my own curiosity and my own experience. What is trauma? And not what is trauma, what does somebody tell you what trauma is, but if you're traumatized, what is that experience? We could call it trauma. In a different language, it would be something else. Boogie boogie. In a different, I don't know what it's called in Japanese or Spanish or Swahili. It's different sounds, but the experience is not the sound, it's whatever you experience as trauma. And it's possible to discover what the fuck's going on. And so I set about like working on, why am I this way? What's going on here? And started to discover stuff. So let's see. So there's that. And then on my journey, there were a few things that I had to confront. One was this, well, I call it the pain wall or the death wall or something like that. I'm just making this shit up again. No, I don't need to clarify. I call it the pain wall or the death wall, where I reach a place and I go, and when I get there, I go, uh-oh, I'm afraid I'm going to die. And I had to, and I would run into the death wall, get there, and then go, it was either go through the wall or suffer in pain and kill myself. And this wasn't an option. So I was sort of forced, in a sense, like I need to go through it. So when I hit the death wall once, I said, okay, die. Then I laid down on my porch and said, okay, die. And you know what happened? Nothing. My body still lived. It was, and then every time I did that, there was a place of, like some discovery on the other side of this wall. There was a discovery, something like I was holding true about others, for example, like they're threatening, or some assumption I had about my core assumption about reality. Like reality is this way, and therefore I need to be like this in relationship to this core assumption. And after a while, it's a weird thing. I would confront this death feeling and then go, Okay, and then it would come up again and it would scare the shit out of me. I'm like, wait, Brendan, I had to tell myself and remember, like, oh, you've been here before. Do what you did last time, which is fucking die. So rather than being afraid of the death, I go, all right, death wall. I'm on to your game kind of thing. Die, let's
Mm.
go. And because the alternative is this emotional pain that I'm in. And that had become unacceptable.
Wow.
Yeah. So that's some shit I went through. And I don't think people know that I went through that. Like, I haven't really shared much about this. And so it's like what I would call maybe the darker side of getting conscious or some shit like that, where it's like, yeah, if you're going to get conscious of what's going on, there's lots of good shit. And there's also trauma, bad shit, built up emotional reactivity that has gone on for so long that it's become core, and it's not pretty.
Mm.
But the good news is, as far as I can tell, it's built on falsity.
So it can
It can go
dissipate.
away. Yeah. But the confrontation was not easy. Like I said, I was afraid I was going to die strongly.
Mm.
But it's okay because your body is strong. Your body's real tough. So, let's see. So, I went through all that stuff. Now, it's not to say that those pathways are completely gone, but the less I use them, the weaker it gets.
Mm.
Like I can still slip back into some weirdness, which I have, and I'm like, why am I back here again? This is bullshit. Here we go again. Okay, what the fuck? You know, but
Mm.
as I detach more and more, it's less and less used.
So you identified the reaction that your body was having.
Yeah.
You identified that it was not caused by physical objects in your vicinity.
Yeah, and that it was not caused by anything external to me. I was like,
Mm.
wait a minute, external doesn't do this. Even other people, even if other people are trying to hurt me, it's up to me to get hurt.
Mm-hmm.
And so then it was like total responsibility. It's on me, it's my experience. Why is my experience like this? And there's like a massive unknown. There's all this shit. There's the objects are ultimately calm. They don't do anything. There's all this shit I've got going on, and then there's the reason why it's going on, and that was unknown. So I would sit sometimes in an unknown, in hell, basically, trying to get why I'm in hell.
While you were experiencing it.
Yeah. And like, what are you missing about that? Like, what don't you know about that? Like, say you have this physical thing, and then being open to discovering I also went through and got that, wait a minute, where I think my mind is. If the answer lies in my mind, where I think my mind is might matter, because the answer, I think, is like, it's, consider the mind more like your entire body.
Mm. Yeah.
And I think that's more useful. And that's how people, they talk about, there's like a book, I've never read this book, but they say the body keeps the score. And so it's like the shit is in your body. Your body and your mind are like the same. So the
Yep.
answer to the trauma lives in your body, kind of body, mind, body, mind. It's in there, and it doesn't have to be thought out like you would normally think of what thinking is. It's a different kind of thought. It's that felt thought.
And you had to confront a feeling of dying with an openness and a willingness to die.
Yeah, the alternative was actual.
Die. So you could distinguish between actual death, like killing yourself and like this feeling of you're gonna die in your body.
Yeah. Apparently, yeah. Because I didn't go off myself clearly, and that just wasn't an option. Although I was in so much pain that I was looking like a pretty good idea. And the pain was emotional. It wasn't physical pain. Although it was in my body, but it was very strong, like owie.
Hmm.
You know.
Okay.
And so, yeah, yeah. Then so how do you? The question I hear is, well, I'm not actually hearing it because it's not being asked. But the question that I imagine is in the air, or that we could put in the air, is how do you confront that?
Yeah.
See, if that's what it is. Well, I think a willingness to confront it starts. Knowledge of the possibility that the mind can create states that are painful. An openness that it might be possible to discover the real root cause of something you don't currently know. A responsibility that it is your experience, that it is not caused by external circumstances. Like, sure, external circumstances may be a trigger for something that's already in you or already in me, but the trigger is not the thing that's in me.
You're making a lot of sense here,
Thanks.
Brendan.
You hear that, folks? You heard it here first. I'm making sense. But then the it's kind of like, as far as I can tell, what I'm giving out here is these are tips and tricks that I discovered slash created slash invented slash found out, fucked around and found out by going through it. And then so the going through it, doesn't have to take a super long time. It doesn't need to take 20 years of therapy, I don't think. But that willingness to confront, and that willingness to, like, it's okay. Maybe that's where Jesus says shit like, have some faith. And that's what I do when I try to tell people your body's not going to die. You might feel like you're going to die. And I'm not saying you will feel like you're going to die. I'm just saying that's what I went through. You might have some other different shit. I don't know.
Mm.
But it is clear that you can control it to some degree, and you have to, like, calm yourself down.
Yeah, for me personally, in my experience, I don't know. I don't know what causes it. I don't have total, it doesn't seem like I have total control over it.
Yeah, it seems to fall on your ass.
It, well, it engulfs me.
Mm.
But but that's true. Like as you were speaking, I was like, why the fuck haven't I thought of this before? I guess to some extent I have, but maybe I just haven't confronted the pain wall or gone through all the way or turned back or something. But I know I can create all kinds of sensations in my body
Yeah.
from all the things that I've done and Ching Shen and outreaching, is following. You create sensations in your body,
Yeah.
and but this, if suppose if I'm creating this and it is my body mind creating it, it feels like a part of my body mind that I don't have access to.
Yeah. Yeah. I
And
was sitting in the dark for a hot minute. I was like, wait a minute. But yeah, go ahead.
I remember, like, I used to do the Wim Hof method,
Yeah.
and I would get down to, I would hold my breath for like a really long time.
Yeah.
And I would get down to this place where I wanted to panic, and I would get down like underneath the place where I wanted to panic.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard to explain, but it's what I would do is it felt like put my consciousness in a very deep primal part of me
Yeah.
that's not my normal social self, the one that talks. It's like it's something deep. I don't know what it is, but it
Yeah.
feels like an animal.
Could be pre-language too, or
Pre-language, yeah.
or the language is just so like a child's brain. Like I did some stuff where I would go quote unquote deep in contemplative wise and get to places that were like, oh my god, this is the shit I did when I was a kid, like kid, like way back.
2 and 3 and 4, yeah.
Yeah, and I even you know, take this with a grain of salt. I did something, and then I called my mom. I'm like, Mom, I had this memory, and I remembered being in a crib with bars, and then there was a lightning storm outside. Somehow I knew that, and I was scared, but I was just there. And she's like, yeah, that's when you were like 1. I was like, okay. And so like memory of that, but I was like, oh, and it was a very simple self. It was just me, and there was no problems. So it was like kind of before the problems started.
Mm.
Before the trauma. I was just there. I was like, oh yeah, that is, as weird as it sounds or doesn't sound, that is accessible. It's like it's already here. Kind of like the answer is already, your experience is already here. Your foundation of your experience is already the foundation. You're just not aware of that. And we don't
Yeah.
go there. We are very concerned with the surface. But
So I've always struggled with this stuff. Like I don't feel like I've been able to, and I know I haven't had nearly as much training as you, but I always seem to struggle more with this kind of what you say, like domain. Like I've become directly conscious,
yeah,
but going deep down into the mind and body through contemplation has just not been easy for me to access in
yeah,
compared to other things. And I found, so like with doing the deep breathing and then holding my breath, I was able to get down deep and access aspects of myself that I couldn't. But it stopped working for me because the actual breathing was started creating the sensations in my body. Like the deep breathing started creating the burning.
hmm.
So it kind of shut that door um, for me. And I don't know what it is, but it seems like I don't know. I don't know, but I know that when I do, like so much stuff can cause me to burn like crazy. But I ran a 2-day workshop on grappling,
Yeah,
and I was grappling like 8 hours a day for 2 days straight. And after the first 20 minutes, there was no burning. And then I had no burning sensations for like 3 or 4 days afterwards.
yeah,
And then they slowly came back. So there's something, some way I don't know what it is. There's something there
yeah,
because what that doesn't make any sense, right? Like, why would everything cause me to burn, but then I'm rolling around and looking for arm bars, and people are trying to strangle me, and I'm fine,
yeah,
but I can't lift weights or like, and the worst things are like not even physical things. Sometimes just like social stuff.
yeah, yeah,
Is crazy.
yeah. A few things that I think will help are, one, I had this thing like, no, my life depends on me getting past this. So I was very like, it's
Yeah.
either die or go through that. And I'm going through it because dying's not an option.
Mm.
And so I probably saved my ass in a certain sense. But anyway, so I had that, like,
Yeah.
I was accountable to other people. I am fucking tired of this bullshit. This, and right away when I ran into this stuff, I was like, this is not me. We don't do this. So I
Mm,
had like this very strong desire to, it's either it or me,
mm,
and it's going down. I don't give a fuck. That kind of mentality. So I don't know. That probably helps. See, so when you tell me something like, well, it doesn't make any sense, I think, one, that's a really good thing to get, because then you're like, wait a minute, this doesn't make any sense. That means that there's something you're missing.
mm-hmm,
And then the second thing, and then the thing I would add to that is fucking find out quick
mm-hmm.
what's going on. What is it really going on there? And I understand the challenge, because it's like staring into an abyss and you don't know what's what. That's like contemplation. You look into the unknown
Yeah.
and you don't fucking know. But you stay there, and your experience, everything in your experience might be saying, get out of here. This doesn't feel good. Do something to alleviate the pain rather than go into her to get what it is or
You
something.
see, Brennan, this is why more people don't do Ching Shin. You talk like this. Hey, sign me up.
I know. Sign up, come to a workshop. No, we are, to be clear, we are hyper focused on a certain aspect of mind that are in more of the psychological domain. We do not invite people to come here and work out their trauma bullshit. This is just a sidebar, like a side quest. Okay.
But maybe a really necessary one,
Maybe
especially
a
if you're going through
necessary
some
one.
serious trauma.
That's right. Maybe if you're caught in some old programming that is like crazy. And I even, like I even talked to Peter about it. I may or may not cut this out. Is what did I say? I can't remember exactly, but I asked him about it. Like, yeah, what haven't you gone through stuff like that? He's like, of course. We're not alone in this mental challenge stuff. Like, everybody's got pain and trauma and bullshit, old programming. That's part of being a person. Like, I did, like, show me a person with no trauma. Show me a human being that is not fucked up in some way. Show me one. We hear about it, right? In the spiritual worlds and some perfectly enlightened human being who's completely transcendent, totally free, like Buddha. Yeah, fucking show me one of those. You got one? Everybody seems to think like they're somehow going to be that, as far as I can tell. Or like that's what you should shoot for. And then beat yourself up when you're not that. No, you're a person. You're fucked up just like everybody else. As far as I
Well,
can tell.
that's a bar I can reach.
Yeah. But yeah, you were saying, yeah, go ahead, sell some Cheng Shin. Yeah, come on down.
Yeah.
Getting conscious of what's true is getting conscious of what's true no matter what it is and what domain. And like I said, right now we're focused heavy on the psychological trauma, past programming, and some things you can do to heal your own mind, essentially. Because your body's not fucked up. Like, it works.
Well, I don't know. Like I have when this goes on, when it gets bad enough, I have
Yeah.
I have seen my skin bleed. But I think it's because that only happened once.
Your
But
skin bled?
my skin, I actually got speckles of blood on my arm.
Ooh.
And like I've
Try some
seen,
stigmata. Like, can you get it to come out the palms of your hand?
I think I'm gonna start going for that shit. No, I think it's like the body goes for it. The body goes for it. It really reacts.
Yeah.
I had a situation once where there was a dog that tried to attack my son,
Mm.
and I jumped in between, like right quick. my body didn't burn at all.
Yeah.
You know, and if I'm wrestling and I haven't boxed in a long time, but I imagine it'd be the same, it's okay.
Right. Yeah. So something's going on.
So something's going, but it's like there's like a danger. There's like a real physical danger. That's okay. But
Yeah.
other kinds of danger that aren't actually real are real as fuck.
Yeah.
There's-
Well, I wonder, like, when we first got on the call and there was that issue of the lateness part, and then did it flare up then?
yeah, it was super bad.
Yeah, so
Yeah, it was.
something's there, and that's like a social concern and a concern of like what I might be thinking of you and how you are relating to me, perhaps. Like
y- It was
you've
how
done
I
a
was
wrong
relating to
thing.
me. Yeah, but maybe it was how to relate to you too. It's like I don't know what the exact emotions are that I'm feeling, and I think of myself as pretty conscious of my emotions.
Yeah.
But it's it's like maybe I'm feeling feelings that I don't know I'm feeling, but my body is like, here they are.
Yeah. Yeah, because I don't know how this relates, but I had this dream. This is right before the proverbial shit hit the fan. I had a dream where I was working on stuff, contemplating my own death essentially, and and I had this dream where I looked myself in the face. It was like in a
Mm,
mirror, and I remember going to bed one night like, okay, just reveal everything, like let me see it all, and I looked myself in the face. This is how I remember it. Again, grain of salt, who knows. And then I woke up, and then I was like all this pain hit me all at once. I was
oh
like,
wow.
what the fuck is this? And I imagine what I make up about that. Again, grain of salt, I have no idea. Is that this is the stuff that I've been living with my whole life and pretending like it wasn't there. And I finally just ripped the band aid off. And now I've got to deal with my experience as a whole. And ouch, something like that. So I don't know if that helps or not.
It points me in a direction, but it doesn't sound easy.
No.
It doesn't. It's like, oh no, you just have to go confront your own death and your life and who you are and everything.
Yeah, or let
What are you
what's
doing?
there be known. Let what's there be known to you or something like that.
Mm,
It's okay to do that. And on the other side, something that may help in a time of confrontation is the what you're in pain about isn't pain.
mm,
And I had to tell myself that, wait a minute, Brennan, I'm in pain about something. What is the thing I'm in pain about? That's not pain, because the pain is what I've already got. I'm in
mm-hmm,
pain about something.
mm,
What am I in pain about? And that's not pain. It's what causes the pain. It's what has you react in a painful way, but it's not pain.
oh, I just got something.
Hmm.
I am always ready to fight or run
Okay. Yeah, your
all
nervous system can't take that for too long.
all the time.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. So now why are you always like that?
I'm not getting into
Okay. Well,
that.
I bet if you just discovered that and that's new to you, then now you have a window. You've got a doorway.
Nah, I've had that. Yeah.
You
Yeah.
don't, yeah. So confront why are you always on edge like that? And you don't, and try to notice that you actually are not being threatened.
Mm,
See, like that's when I use the objects. I look around, like, wait a minute, no, this doesn't make sense because the objects, you're in a room, you're safe, but
mhm,
you don't think you're safe. That means that you're relating to something.
mm,
If you stop having that something occur or go, we're jumping right to the end here, is you're relating to a thought that you think is necessary.
mm,
If you stop thinking that thought, your nervous system will calm down because you'll no longer be relating to something in your experience that says run or fight. Yeah. So, I mean, you can go for that right now. Like, go ahead. If you could do the quick version, go ahead. Just that thought, like, I had to do this with others. I was always relating to others as if they were a threat. And I had to get that others aren't what I think they are. I took others out of my head and I actually, this is an exercise, something you could do. Put the others where they actually are in physical space. Don't put them in here. Think of others if you think others, like say your person, put her out there where she is. Think the thought of her somewhere outside of your body, because that is actually where she is.
Yeah.
And when I started to do that, my nervous system immediately started to calm down.
I'll get on that.
Yeah, give it a shot. Anyway, cool. Yeah, it sounds like there's a door there now. You're like, oh, wait a minute. I'm always on edge. Right. Now find why you're on edge and get what's real about that and what's a concept. And stop the concepts. And your nervous system will chill.
Dokie.
Yeah. How you doing? Do you need to get going?
Yeah, I should bring
Cool.
it to a close.
Perfect. So there you go, ladies and gentlemen. You heard it here. Well, you heard this here first because this is the first place you'll hear this, I guess. Can't fuck with that.
No, that should be a short right there. That's the thing.
We're just deep dive into trauma. Again, for those of you out there, I do not want you to associate a psychological domain with this work. We go into everything, not just psychology. And I do not want to limit this work to a psychological domain, although this is where we went today. And
Can I add a caveat to that? This
please.
is not like this is you, certainly not me. We're not trained psychiatrists or psychologists, nor do we even know how to use most psychological terms with any degree of real accuracy.
Yeah. Nor do we care to.
Yeah, that's no. You were talking from your own experience and contemplation and what you've been through, and you were talking from personal experience.
Yeah.
You know, and having used
and I use
the
psychology.
and the contemplative power that you've developed through a lot of contemplation, through training and training and training and training forever.
Yeah.
That's where you're coming from. So I wouldn't even say like this is particularly a psychological domain. It may be. People could talk about this with psychological terms.
Yeah.
But we haven't been.
People off that.
Yeah, so it's not. This is not psychological terms. This is you going through your experience by facing it, confronting it, wanting to know, being contemplative about it, and not giving up.
Yeah.
It's approaching the matter with consciousness and willingness. It's not. Now somebody could talk about that psychologically. That's their thing.
Yeah. Yeah. And I put the caveats. My intention with the caveats or with my clarifications is to assist people in avoiding what I consider to be the trap of just relegating what's heard within a psychological context, because then you will hear what's being shared within that narrow focus and you will likely miss a lot of stuff, and or you will not grasp what I'm trying to communicate as clearly because you'll be looking at it from your own perspective. And then so I want to rip people off of that to create some more openness as the listener. And that's why I do that. So Cool. Well, thank you for diving in with me. Appreciate
Thank
it.
you.
Still got it done.
Yeah.
I'll just let you go. Just text me. We'll figure out a time for the next one.
All right.
And we'll get your calendar sorted out and all that shit.
All right. Sounds good, bro. Did you stop recording?
Oh no, I haven't. I'll just stop recording now. Oh. Bye.